Hi, my name's Andrew Lowes and I'm a 19-year-old from the UK, currently on a gap year, and I've just made the decision that I won't be going to university this year. I'm going to go through some of the factors that led to me making this choice, as well as some questions that I think you need to ask yourself before going to university. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, before I go into the reasons as to why I'm not going to university, I think it's important to give you a bit of backstory about my school life and academic history. I've always been quite academic and did well in school, so a lot of my teachers and friends just expected that I would go on to university. But as I was doing my A-levels, I began asking questions like, what is my actual goal here? And the only answer I could come up with was I was doing my A-levels to go to a good university to get a good, secure job. So then I asked myself, well, why do I want a good job? And the only real answer I could come up with for that was that hopefully I'd be able to earn enough money over my lifetime to be able to do what I want, when I want, and with whom I want. So then I thought about it a bit more and soon realised that I was basically going to be giving up the best years of my life where I've got the most energy, the most vitality, so that I can earn enough money so that hopefully one day when I'm old, I'll be able to do the things and have the experiences that I want to have now. And I just thought this is a crap deal. Also, I knew I was never going to be fully satisfied being in a position where I have a boss telling me what to do and when to do it. So I basically realised I never wanted to be an employee. So my logical conclusion to that was I was either going to have to be self-employed or start a business. Now at first I thought my only real option was to go down the self-employed route, so learn to be a plumber or an electrician and do this for a job. But then I realised my dad has been self-employed as a builder for most of his working life, and while he's given a really good life to me and my family, he's always had to work extremely hard, and deep down I knew for as long as the amount you make is tied to the amount of hours you work, you're never going to get rich. So then I started considering what kind of businesses I could start. Now I don't blame my parents for this, because this is what they were raised to believe and this is what they've known to be true for most of their life, but they basically raised me with the mentality that in order to start a business, you would have to get years of experience in a certain field first. So for example, you could go work as an accountant or a solicitor for like 10, 15, 20 years, and then you could open up your own business doing that. But then I started seeing countless examples of people online who are teenagers and in their 20s who have been able to create massive amounts of money starting a business. So at this point I knew it was possible, I just didn't have the strategies to put it in place. So I decided I was going to start reading books on it. So one of the first books I read was Rich Dad Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And this book for me basically dispelled the whole myth that going to university and getting a good job was the best way to create freedom and wealth in your life. I knew for a fact after reading this book that the best way to do this was to start a business and become an investor. So if you don't fully appreciate that, I highly recommend this book. So after reading this, I knew I wanted to start a business, but I didn't necessarily know what an effective model for a business looked like. But strangely enough, one of my mates that is also interested in entrepreneurship actually recommended I read the book The Millionaire Fastlane. Now I'd actually heard and tried to read this book around 2 or 3 years ago maybe, but I was just so put off by the title and the way that the author comes across at the start. But I decided to read it again and it completely changed my view on business. I suddenly had all the information I needed on deciding what business to go after. Now the whole book is pure gold if you're starting a business and I highly recommend it, but one thing that really stood out to me was the acronym of SENSE. Now I'll put what each of the letters means here, but basically what it is a framework for creating a profitable, successful business. Control, of course, means are you creating a business that you control fully, or can a third party come in and seriously affect whether you can run your business? Entry basically means are you creating a product or service that another competitor can't just come in and copy with ease? So essentially you need to be solving a real problem and this takes effort. Need, of course, means that you're solving a real problem and not just one that you've made up. Now time was the biggest one for me, as it really reinforced what I was beginning to believe was that you need to create a business that is separate from your time. So this completely killed the idea of learning a trade and being paid for it. Scale, of course, means can your product or model be scaled in some way, so either by franchising or creating new products, offering new services, or is your business going to hit a ceiling fairly early on as to how big you can grow it? So before reading this, one of the businesses that I was considering was starting a gym, but I soon realised it didn't meet many of these requirements, and as a result it probably wouldn't have become a large profitable business that I could live off. So I started looking for other business models that met more of these criteria, and at this point I came across Amazon FBA and realised it met enough of these criteria that it could be a profitable and successful business. Now I don't want to go on too much about Amazon FBA in this video, but I've created a full guide that I'll link in the top right that explains the business in detail. So after all this, why did I decide not to go to university? Of course there are business and entrepreneurship degrees that you can do, but I know for a fact in the last 6 months of starting this business, so talking to suppliers, analysing data, doing market research, I've learned more than I would have in a 3 to 4 year degree that would have cost me £50,000. So I believe if you want to start a business and be an entrepreneur, then you are better off taking that money you would put towards your education and using it to start a business. Because you'll learn so much more about business by actually doing it instead of learning from a textbook and a teacher that has never themselves actually started a business. Because think about it, why should you pay over £9,000 a year to learn outdated information about starting a business when you can actually go to the experts that are already getting the results you want? Because if you want to start an online business like Amazon FBA or digital marketing, then you can actually learn from the experts in these fields for a fraction of the cost of university tuition for 1 year. Okay, if you're considering going to university, I think you should actually ask yourself these questions first. Firstly, why is it are you actually going? Are you doing it because other people expect you to, like your parents or teachers or friends? Are you doing it because you think getting a degree will get you a high paid job that will be secure? Or are you just going because you don't know what else to do and your friends are doing it? If it's because of any of these reasons, then I definitely don't think you should be going to university just yet. In my opinion, the only real reason to go is if you have a job you want to do that requires a degree. So for example, a doctor or engineer. Otherwise, I think you are just better off getting an apprenticeship or an internship and actually learning the skills of the job you want to do. Because at the end of the day, university tuition is not cheap. 1 year is £9,250, and then add on top of that living expenses. Most students, I believe, come out with around £40,000 to £60,000 worth of debt. Now, of course, in the UK, it works slightly different to how it does in the US, because after 30 years, it is actually written off, whereas in the US, it's not written off even if you declare bankruptcy. But how it does work is you'll be taxed an additional 9% on everything you earn above 25 grand. So I'll just take you through a quick example to illustrate this. Okay, in my case, I was considering doing economics at university to go into investment banking. Now, let's say I were to have gone and studied economics and got a job at a well-known investment bank. Firstly, with how competitive this industry is, I'd probably be earning between £25,000 and £30,000 a year in London. So in London, I would only just be getting by and I wouldn't be building any kind of wealth at this point. But say after 5-10 years, I managed to climb my way up the ladder and I end up on £100,000 a year. So a year ago, I might have thought that is the absolute dream, but let's actually work out how much of that money I would get to keep. Okay, so let's just use this calculator. So firstly, the gross pre-tax income would be £100,000. Let's say it's this tax year, and because I would have had to have gone to university to get this job, I will have student loan debt that needs to be repaid as part of my income tax. So under advanced options here, we can actually go in and say that I've got a student loan that needs repaying post 2012. So I'm going to click that and then calculate. So of that £100,000, I'd be keeping under £60,000 of it. And if we scroll down, we can get a breakdown of where that money's going. So £6,000 to national insurance, £6,500 to my student loan, and £27,500 paid as tax. Now, I'm by no means saying £60,000 is a lot of money, but considering this is the best case scenario, it really doesn't seem worth it. Also, keep in mind, I'd probably have to be working 12 to 14 hour days, 6-7 days a week. So honestly, this is just not what I want to be spending the next 10, 20, 30 years of my life doing. Because I believe my business will do over £100,000 in profit within the next 2 to 3 years. Of that £100,000, I'll be able to keep a lot more than £59,855. If we have a look here, the corporation tax rate in the UK is set to be 18% by 2020. So this means if I were to do £100,000 in profit from my business, then I'd be paying £18,000 in tax. And in all fairness, there's a lot of legal ways that you can reduce the amount of tax your business pays even further. Whereas if you're just earning income as an employee, there really isn't much you can do to reduce the amount you pay in tax. While I'm not an accountant, because this is something that really interests me, I've looked into it quite a lot. So firstly, because you're taxed on the amount of profit your business makes, you can reinvest those profits back into the business and you won't be taxed on that. So for example, you may decide to reinvest all your profits back into new stock for your business. So this will effectively reduce the amount you pay in tax. Also, because technically you'll be an employee of your own business, you can pay yourself a salary. So in the UK, we have a tax-free allowance of 12.5 grand, I believe. So by paying yourself a salary of 12.5 grand, you effectively won't be paying tax on this. Finally, the other thing I'm aware of are dividends, and these are profit redistributions to shareholders. So effectively what this is when a company makes a profit, they can pay this profit to shareholders in the form of dividends. And up to a certain amount, dividends are tax-free as well. So by hiring an accountant that really understands these things, you can significantly reduce the amount your business pays in tax. Of course, there's the example of Amazon that effectively gets away with paying little to no tax in most countries. So I hope you're beginning to see how in a capitalist society like what we live in, successful business owners and entrepreneurs are much more heavily rewarded than successful employees. So it's just a case of asking yourself, which do you want to be? And for me, it's being a business owner. Okay, I didn't create this video to vilify university in any way. In fact, I actually quite respect what they're doing from a business standpoint. And if you're currently at university and you're beginning to regret it, my advice would be don't, just get on with it, do the best you can, but also be doing what you can on the side, such as starting a business if that's what you're interested in doing. That being said, why I did create this video is for anyone that is currently contemplating university, but they're not sure. It's kind of like how I was a year ago. And I basically just wanted to change your mindset around being an employee, starting a business, and show you what possibilities are out there instead of the standard 9 to 5. That being said, if you are looking to become an entrepreneur and you are looking for a business model that is proven to work, then I highly recommend you have a look at Amazon FBA. Like I said, I'll link the full guide to Amazon FBA that I recently did in the top right. Okay, if you found this video helpful, I'd really appreciate if you drop a like. And if you're interested in following my own journey as an entrepreneur, then please be sure to subscribe. Otherwise, I hope you have a great day and I'll catch you in the next one.